week. Wow! Wow, what a week presents Fresh Money. Proudly brought to you by African Bank.
Audacity to believe.
Hi, hello, and welcome to another edition of Fresh Money, brought to you by African Bank. Audacity to believe. It is Women's Month. We are chatting to great women that we feel you ought to know if you don't know them already. She is, I love her title. Please welcome from African Bank, Gcobisa Ntshona.
Correct.
But not from New Brighton, the other Ntshonas. So you are not related to the great playwright, Ubabu Winston.
I will say somewhere in the family tree.
We'll claim
it
him.
Connects, yes.
We'll claim him.
Yes, it does connect.
So what is your position? I want you to say it yourself because I think it's a dope position.
So I am the Group Chief People Officer for African Bank.
People Officer. In simple English, what do you do?
In simple English, I am tasked on behalf of our executive team to ensure that we drive all things to do with our people agenda, insofar as it enables our strategy.
I'm going to ask you this because I take it this is one of the reasons why you've been tasked with this. And I think it's something we take for granted often. The importance of people in business.
No, I think, you've touched on it, Fresh. I think for us, especially at African Bank, we believe that people are the lifeblood of what we do. They are part and parcel of what we deem a competitive edge.
Sure.
And therefore, it then becomes key that we ensure that in whatever we do, it's people or colleague-centered. And a huge part of what I and my team do is really driving those type of initiatives that ensure that not only does the bank perform, but that the culture and the colleagues are also aligned to that.
So typically a day in the life of a people officer such as yourself.
It's what a wow.
So you get to work and typically what do you need to do?
So I get to work and I think in a typical day, it's always the reminder that says, where are we in terms of the commitments we made on all people initiatives?
Yes.
So I'll give you maybe just a sense of some of the things that we are busy with. So I'm not sure if you'd have seen, but African Bank has been certified a top employer 3 years in a row.
Wow.
So what that means is that our people practices, insofar as our strategy is concerned, insofar as our development initiatives, wellness initiative recognition, they are top tier.
Sure.
So my day would then foster around where are we with the initiatives we said we're doing on people in terms of all the different facets of that. So my day really evolves around that. My day evolves a lot on collaboration with my colleagues, but also collaboration with colleagues across the bank as well, just in terms of the things we do for people. Simple English, it could be how we source talent and get talent in the bank. It can look at how we retain talent for the bank. It looks at how we support our colleagues in terms of wellness and well-being. I mean, there's lots on the go. So those would be some of the things I would do in a typical day.
Let's talk about the importance of not only acquiring the talent, but developing the talent. Because I think as a person that doesn't do a 9 to 5, I'd be frustrated if I felt like I was stuck on a treadmill and I'm not being developed and I'm not being given something to work towards. How important is development?
So they don't say audacity for nothing when they talk African Bank. And I think for us, development is important in two facets. I think one, there's obviously the structured one, but two, there's stretch. If I look at African Bank, I mean, in the past, so our strategy says we're a bank that's evolving, that's scaling, that's digitizing, becoming customer-centric. And part and parcel of what we've done, for instance, we've done a number of acquisitions and integrations. So what you would find is that the talent that's already inside the colleagues, they are stretched because they're doing more than what they would have been doing a few years back.
Okay. So you don't have a choice but to grow.
Correct. They have moved roles. They are working and collaborating differently. And then what we do from my space and my team is then also say, what are some of the structured development interventions that we give to colleagues? I think that's that. I think secondly, around development, especially on our internal colleagues. I mean, if I look at one of the key things we do, we've got this great culture and leadership journey that we're on. And I think at its core, it really talks around how you master yourself. It's centered on a number of components, but the key one I wanted to link up is one that says, I will lead myself. And if you then just look at that, it says, how do I constantly evolve? How do I constantly sharpen my soul as a colleague at African Bank before I can lead with others? So it's one of our 4 commitments. So it's I lead myself, I lead with others, I lead through others, and in service of others. But I think if you look at the I will lead myself, it says how do you constantly develop, but also we are also tasked to say how do we support and enable our colleagues to do the same.
Now, your average human being, I'd like to think over the last 10, 15 years, has probably gone through more anxiety, stress, and depression than possibly in the history of humankind. What is the bank doing in terms of the well-being of the colleagues, as you call them, and making sure that people are not getting burnt out, people are not coming to work, but they're not going to deliver because mentally I'm not okay, for instance?
Yeah, that is a reality for us at African Bank. And it's a reality that's not only in terms of where we see the bank. I mean, a few years back, COVID hit. It changed how work is done. And in how work is done came elements of well-being, and it spotlighted elements of well-being. I think secondly, for African Bank, I mean, we are evolving at pace and at scale. So it does tell us that the reality of our colleagues is one where elements around well-being, work-life balance, mental elements come to play. So we've done a number of things. I think we've recognized that we are on a massive change journey. So how do we support our colleagues? And I'll name just a few things. I'll start with the one that is around recognition. Because we have said, how do we recognize colleagues for a job well done? Because think about it, no matter the tensions you go through, if one is recognized for a job well done, it does uplift one. So we've got a top tier recognition program that includes how colleagues recognize one formally, informally, local trips, global trips, that's one. And then on the more serious side around wellness, so we've partnered with a number of vendors out there. And what they've helped us with, I think we do also a surveys where colleagues can gauge the level of where they are from a mental fatigue perspective. And what they've come with is then a number of those interventions which we run in the various divisions. So we've got a number of those where we help support colleagues in the various facets. Is it closer to burnout, how they manage and navigate work? I think that's one. We've also done something that we've introduced earlier this year, and those are what we call well-being retreats. And then we said, insofar as teams, for instance, sometimes go on their offsite for planning or strategic things, they take a day out to do some wellness or type of initiatives and activities. And I must say, they do come back reinvigorated. We've got medicals, we've got the other staff at doctor on site, we've got the typical gym on site. But I think if I look at the full offering, insofar as our value proposition is on wellness, I do think we've got a number of good initiatives that truly help and support the colleagues through this journey. But it is a reality that we find to say mental well-being is a key thing that colleagues sometimes battle with. So how do we put the right tools that support them?
At management level, I'd like to think and believe that you guys go through a special kind of stress. having to deal with whether it's Exco or with the board or your deliverables. How do you relax?
How do I relax? It's an interesting one. So, how do I relax? No, I do a number of things. I mean, I come from a big family, and I think family centers me. So I'm big on family outside of work. So that's one of my things. I love sport, tennis. So I play tennis with family. I'm a reader of note. I don't read as much as I do, but I probably think, to be fair to you, I don't do a lot of the things I used to do purely because of where we are in the journey. So I think it's one, finding those spaces and time to do that. But what's been great as an executive team, we've said, let's also lead from the front. So let's not put forward these initiatives and then we don't participate in them. So as executives as well, we also partake in the medicals, because they also help to say, then from a health journey, how do you go through that? But also the wellness retreats, when we also have our offsites, we are also able to partake in those.
Now, in closing, let's talk about the future of work from your perspective.
I think the future of work is evolving ever so rapidly. I think from where we sit, not only as a bank, but also as a human capital function, it's to say, how do we keep up with all these rapid movements in terms of work? How do we ensure that technology is truly seen as an enabler? How do we ensure that the ways of work in the organizations are those that showcase where we are at, and these talk to digital ways of work? It talks to how work becomes and is done in agile format. So I think I would say banking is also evolving. Our bank is growing. And I think for us really at African Bank is to say, how do we keep abreast with all these changes, and how do we become relevant? And then from the function then that we play where people are concerned is to say, how do we provide them with the right toolkits to keep up with this, and how do we ensure that they also sharpen their saw as the evolutions take place?
Now, as we wrap up this episode, and it being Women's Month, often we lament how women are expected to do it all, and to do all of it as an A+ student. You must be a mother, you must be a sister, you must be the matriarch of the family. And if you are a corporate hun, as you people are called, how do you get all of that done and still keep your head above water? Are there any secrets or any hacks that you've learned that have made this journey a bit easier for yourself?
I wouldn't say there's secrets, but I think I'm one of those who really says we had women before us who crafted the building blocks for where we are at. And then the calling then is on us to say, how do we create those spaces that our kids, when they are faced with this, it doesn't become an uphill journey. So I think it's always to change constantly, daily, the narratives and the stereotypes that says this is for women, this is for males.
Absolutely.
Because the sooner we change some of those, I think then the lesser the load on the female.
And the expectation.
Correct. But I think we're getting better at those. I must say, I think we really are getting better at those. I think we're seeing males as well becoming allies, which I think for me is the greatest thing of all. I think if the males could be more allies to this, it truly lessens the load. But there's no secrets, none whatsoever.
And I think after all is said and done, we're all just making our way through the dark, really.
Correct. We've got hope, but we see the fog and we know we'll be on the other side.
Feel your way through. You know there's something at the other end.
That is true. No, that is true.
Any closing words before we let you go?
No, I think my closing words is just really one to say, I mean, African Bank is truly the place to be. Not only from a banking perspective, but if I look at the employee offering, I mean, one of the things I always share with colleagues, I said, even our colleagues. We don't see ourselves as colleagues. We see ourselves as movement makers.
Sure, sure.
Which means we realize that this work is greater than us. So I think those would be my closing ones, to say it really is the place to be. If you want stretch, if you want to be developed, if you want to be challenged and learn, I think this is the place to do that.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And, thanks for being a great Chief People's Officer.
Yes.
At African Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, please make some noise for Gcobisa Ntshona, Chief People's Officer at African Bank. Audacity to believe.
Thank you.